What if the pain in your body, the chaos in your life, and the patterns you can't seem to break aren't problems at all, but messages? Most problems are metaphoric expressions, shape-shifted from the past. And your mind doesn't speak in words, it speaks in experiences, sensations, and patterns, like feeling used, feeling lonely, abandoned. Every ache, every setback, every trigger in your mind, showing you cycles of what it still holds inside. Once you understand that language, everything begins to change. In this episode, Robert Gene, creator of eutaptics and FasterEFT, explores the metaphors of the mind and the secret language of the body. You'll learn how the mind expresses itself through thoughts, behaviors, patterns, physical sensations, and how it shapes your experiences. How understanding this hidden system allows you to shift patterns and create meaningful, lasting change. For over 4 decades, Robert has pioneered practical neuroscience-informed methods that transform stress, trauma, addiction, and chronic pain. He's known as the Einstein of the mind. He teaches people how to rewrite memories, retrain their nervous system, and create measurable, lasting change. His work has reached millions globally. And before we get started, hit subscribe to start understanding how your mind works, how it expresses itself in your life and in your body. And here is Robert Gene.
Robert Gene, I'll tell you one thing, this is so amazing. Many years ago, because, when I first started, why do I have problems? That's the big question. Why am I so jacked up, and with the F word, right? And so I was trying to figure out what the heck's going on, So it was a long journey to figure out why we have problems. And again, said I'm going to do sessions all the time. Do a lot of sessions, change a lot of lives in a really short period of time, sometimes even within a 2-hour session, big shifts and changes. And so the weird thing is that, I do an intake and figure out why you got a problem. Well, most people don't realize the problem in front of us isn't really the problem. We think it is because we feel it now, but in reality, it's just a recycled experience, recycled memories and shifts and changes, I remember, the very first time I did a seminar by myself in 2001, Jacksonville, Florida. And so I'm working on this girl, and she told me a story. She says, every time I work, my stress gets so big, my thumb on my right hand hurts, and I couldn't work. And she said, I wish it would move to the other hand. And it did. From that point forward, anytime she gets stressed, her left thumb hurts, so she can still work. Shape shifting, the mind shape shifts all the time. Now, the weird thing is, it's bizarre how it works. I've seen it a billion times. I like Kathy, for example. Kathy is she said I changed her life, which I helped her change her life. And she said, and I was his guinea pig, and she was. I've learned so much because of working on her. And the bizarre thing is, she's close to divorcing her husband, and she said, the garage door goes up, and I'm so angry he's here, anger. So she's telling me how horrible this guy is, And of course, she says, now when you meet Eugene, don't let him intimidate you. He's 6'4". I go, oh shit, I'm just like 10 foot 11, 10 and 3/4, and I'm not that big. So, as she's telling me these stories about this guy, and so when I meet him, he's such a nice guy. If she said, lick my feet, he would be down there licking her feet. He everything. He would do anything for her, and he did. But why was she so angry? This is a shaped shift problem.
Right.
So I started work. I was working at a gym. I was doing massage therapy and also building my neuroplasticity program using tapping, right? And so I had a client right before her, and I gave her a little flyer I created with this neuroplasticity program, tapping, adjusting memory, psychosensory process. And she says, I want to try that after I was finished the client. And she said, I've tried for years to get a massage. I can't get it. I can't have anybody touch me. I go, okay. I said, well, why do you think so? You had any bad experiences, physical experiences? You go, yeah, I was sexually abused by my stepdad, who's a deacon in a local Baptist church. And I said, well, okay, that kind of makes sense. So I said, well, why don't we just work on this feeling you have? So I'm using the process and I'm working on her. And come to find out, it's the very first massage that she ever had. And so she would book a session. I'd give her a massage and do some mental work, some changes on stuff, right? So then finally I meet Eugene. He, like I said, he's a great guy, really good guy. So everything was coming out of her mouth was about herself, about herself. So what happened is like when you have an experience, say you have, and I see this all the time, say you have a bully in your life, and of course they're bullying you, and you'll take a role. You'll either take the victim role or you can flip flop and be the bully too. So for her, it was safer to be the bully than it was to be the victim. And she married this guy who became her victim, which is a symbol of herself. Mm-hmm. And as we start cleaning these memories up, all of a sudden we discovered he looks just like her stepfather.
Wow.
Talk about chills going through you. So the brain has this system that attracts to us what we know to be true, familiar, and it's just a repeating it, unconscious, recycled experience.
Wow. So to make sure that we're all on the same page, Robert, what exactly is a metaphor of the mind?
Yeah, metaphor. A metaphor is something that actually represents something else.
There we go.
Right.
Okay.
So like for her, Eugene represented herself and being a victim, and also represented stepdad. Mm-hmm. So again, so the brain is a very smart machine. I call it the intelligent idiot as well. It has a tendency to pick, attract, go to, re-experience what you've already experienced before. It's just like you're on the hamster wheel and you think it's different, but it's the same. A different pair of shoes, a different name, but you feel the same because you're recycling it all. And I've seen it. I experienced it myself as well. I mean, it's how the brain works. And the weird thing is that it's natural system. So the brain is a law of attraction system. It's like some of you know what I'm talking about. You keep dating the same person over and over again. If you get really good, you even get better at how bad they are. It's
it usually happens that way.
That's because it's manifesting and producing from what we hold within ourselves. So it's like it's a recycled experience. And I say my picker's broken because they keep getting worse. I said, they're not getting worse. You're getting better at picking what fits your internal world. Mm-hmm. You're compounding your skills. So that's kind of how the brain works. And so the thing is how do you get off the roller coaster ride? How do you get off of this merry-go-round that has your name on it and you're the one pushing it and you're the one riding it? Mm-hmm. That's the crazy part, because I work with a lot of people and I have a tendency, I want to look at, because when they say I have this problem, in my mind, they don't have a problem. They have a production, a production and a translation. And so my detective skills are, we call it the art of change, going inside and discovering how your mind is replicating your past and to create your present. Mm-hmm. If you ever notice, guys, everywhere you go, your problem's there. Mm-hmm. Everywhere you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I recently talked to someone who had he went hunting. He went hunting in a forest far away from everyone except from his friend, his one friend. But he brought it was actually his brother's friend, so he didn't know the guy that well. But every issue he had with his wife came up through this man in the middle of a forest.
Mm-hmm. And the bad thing is, I say bad, it's not really bad to the brain, but the bad thing is that her name is Sue LaRue. Sue LaRue's had 19 orthopedic surgeries. She walks with a little walker and she's attending my seminars. And of course, she went to the optometrist to get her eyes checked, and she's got some cataracts that needs to be removed. And while she's in my seminar, I'm training about how to make peace with your relationships. And she says, well, my daughter-in-law is my ex-husband, my dad, and every else person I can't stand, all rolled up in one pair of shoes. So this emotional was big. And so one of the things I teach is how the brain works and how we manifest and recreate. And we actually use our own paintbrush from our own bucket of dung or whatever our stuff is, and we start painting everywhere we go. So I said, well, what you got to do is you got to look at this person, and you need to address your emotions about this person, and also if they mirror or similar to someone else. And so as working on this stuff, and she, we do affirmations, but how we make affirmations work is we knock out resistance so it goes in. So she's tapping and working on memories, and she taps on herself. I just want to see her clearly for who she is. Right? See her clearly. Because remember, we distort the world to match our internal world. And so she did all this working on this stuff, and definitely the relationship was changing. And then so at one point, they're going to go do surgery. And so she's in there and getting ready to do surgery. And the doctor's looking at her eyes and goes, he had a weird look. He said, what's wrong, doc? He says, you don't have any cataracts. So from point A to point B, and what she did between the two, she addressed the dirty things, the bad things she didn't want to see outside.
Wow, that
body followed the changes.
So the cataracts, that was the metaphoric expression
to her, the unforgiveness, the anger, and the frustration of her daughter-in-law.
Wow. So anybody's eyes can change. Like if they do this inner work to change what they're holding inside of them, they can change.
Yeah. I mean, if you hadn't seen my testimonials on my YouTube channel, we're talking about people with severe physical illnesses, Hashimoto's, lupus, POTS disease, fibromyalgia, ME, real pain. And all they did was change what's inside their mind and how they represent that person, and what started the roller coaster ride, which is usually, normally, mostly unpleasant experiences, aka trauma. Now, of course, trauma is an experience. It's not a disease. It's not brokenness. It's just your brain captured something, organized it, and used it on you to stay safe. Now, pain is designed to keep you safe, keep you from getting hurt again, but also consciousness gets involved, and we build this big monster, and now we spend our whole life fearing pain and creating a manifestation, bigger pain, and really get sick. So they come to my system, and we make peace, adjust.
All right. So people that are listening to you explain that cataracts are this metaphoric expression of and that's not the real issue. And they might be finding this topic really interesting. So what are the mechanics of the mind? How does the mind turn something like an emotional experience into a physical manifestation or sensation?
Yeah, well, the thing is about the mind, how the brain works. Basically, you come to this world, you're just basically a blank slate. You're just a little kid, or you don't know what language you're going to speak when you're born. So you're exposed to the world. You start learning what the world's like. And if you have crazy people in your life, you're going to act crazy. If you have mean people, you're going to be mean. You're going to learn how to deal with these things. So the brain starts taking in the world and creating an identity, a value system, a coping mechanism. So then it creates what you call who I am and how I am and what my role is in the world. So everybody could oscillate from being a victim to the victimizer, depending on how big the programs and the programmings are. So that's pretty much how the brain works. It brings it in, but it also keeps you in alignment with it, because that's how the real world is. That's how the real world works. So it's trying to keep you in alignment with it. That's your jungle, so to speak, our jungle training, our life training, our skill training. And so from that point forward, we're going to leave and we're going to take our jungle with us. We're going to take our belief systems, our value systems with us. Now, that's how it works. That's how it works. So the weird thing is that they create patterns and coping mechanisms. Like worked with a guy who he had an abusive sister, and unfortunately, she was a few years older, and she bullied him, she picked on him, made fun of him. So this is his education. Now you could call it a trauma, but traumas are really just educational how to survive in the world. Some people have big traumas, some have little traumas. So he started to develop the model of the world that he's to be picked on, and or he may see girls or women in a certain way. Well, at one point, she started touching him inappropriately. So then, all of a sudden, his world is now opening up to a different world that he didn't know existed. So then, but he also felt like he was a victim. So first of all, he comes in the world, she's picking on him, she beats him up, she bullies him, picked on him, right? And then she's doing things he's not supposed to do, and he's feeling what? Victimized again, right? Mm-hmm. So then, of course, they get in fights, and he's trying to, whatever this is, and so then he goes to school. And guess what he finds at school? Somebody else picking on him, whether it's a school teacher or a female client, or even female student, or even a boy student. Because again, his model of the world is now being developed. Mm-hmm. Then he goes on, and he gets older, and he says he wants to start dating. But see, he has this model of the world that I'm to be picked on. Women pick on you. And women do it too. Women will have a brother who will do the same thing, or a father who will be abusive, or, it's just, and so it carves out our world. And so our brain recycles these learned coping mechanisms. So now here it is. He's going out in the dating world, and he's, at first, he's I don't want to say victim, but he goes along with it. He doesn't fight it. Right. So he's used to just letting her do whatever. So now he's doing it at school. Now his buddies he's allowing them to pick on him and bully him. And then his girlfriend is doing the same thing. So, she gets pregnant, and he feels like that she loves the child more, and he's not good enough. And so then, it gets really bad, and then he leaves. Right. And then he moves on. So he's creating this model of the world, this recycled, rehashing a coping mechanism. And so he keeps moving forward. And then he works at a job, and he seems to find always a female at the job, or a male. It's the same system, feeling the same thing at work. So now they think it's the work is the problem. The job is the problem. And so this is how the story replays. So if you're a little girl and you feel like daddy doesn't love you and you're trying to get love, you're going to be trying to do the same thing throughout. Money could be like daddy. It could be like your church. It could be like a lot of different things. So he joins this religious group. Again, the religious group is still pointing at you. There's something wrong. You're not doing it right. Mm-hmm. So again, these are emotional cycles. Now, most people never see this. They still think the problems are today, but they're all recycled. They're patterned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For those of you listening, if you want to start changing these patterns in yourself, check out the show notes for the link to Robert's free online course where you can learn how to start working on yourself, change the metaphoric expression within yourself, and take the first step to transforming your mind and your life.
Definitely. Yeah. Again, you don't know that it's just a cycle. It's just a repeating emotional cycle. It's a pattern that's being recreated. So we think this is the problem. This is the problem. This right here is the problem. Mm-hmm. But not realizing it's not a problem. It's a rehearsal. It's a replay, and you're really good at it. Mm-hmm. And that's the crazy part. So like then he gets to the point. I hate this, or I hate that, or I hate this, whatever it is. Everywhere he goes, he's feeling like a victim. A repeated cycle. So it shapeshifts. Now, the bizarre thing is, it does it in all kinds of weird ways. Like I'm in Strasbourg, France, and I'm doing You Can Heal Your Body by basically changing your memories, your mind. And so this one woman, she, I'm in a seminar and I said, that's how the brain works, it recycles. And she said, well, I've had this back pain for 40 years. And of course, on the break, she asked me questions and said, I've had this back pain for 40 years. And I said, well, 40 years, what happened 40 years ago? She goes, I was holding a little child, I slipped and fell and I hit my bum. I said, okay. So I asked the next smart question. I go, what was going on in your life around that time period that wasn't so good? She goes, no one's ever asked me that. I said, what is it? She goes, my father just died. Now, previously in the seminar, I said, sometimes pain will resemble or be linked to a relationship. And so in the class, I said, I want you to just think about this pain. If it were a person, who would it be? And she looked on her, and I could see it. She said, it's my father. All right, so here it is. She wrote it down, not knowing it's even linked together, not knowing that the pain resembled or connected to the pain of losing her dad. All right. So I pull her up after the break and I work on these memories, the pain memories, the loss and the death of her dad memories. And when she got up, the pain was gone. All right, that was Saturday. And then Sunday morning, day 2 of the seminar, she came up and she said something. She said, it's really embarrassing, but my pain's gone. But I woke up this morning and I wet the bed. She's never wet the bed. She said the last time I wet the bed was when I was 12 years old, right after my father died. The link was linked.
Wow.
I got chills going through me just thinking about it. So the brain is metaphoric. It shifts. It's a shapeshifter. We have people want to have more finances. Well, finances and how you operate finances resembles relationships. It resembles the stories. It's a metaphoric shapeshifter of, dad didn't love me enough because he wouldn't pay child support,
Yeah.
Or the church said, if you have money, it's the root of all evil. And dad always complained about the boss who had money. So again, they start to dump a negative link to certain things. And then your brain successfully creates this seemingly problem, which happens to be a great success.
Right. So this is the part that I'm really trying to understand. And people that are listening to this, that are hearing this information for the first time, how is it that the brain is keeping us safe? Let's say it's an abusive relationship, or like the guy who was bullied. How is it keeping us safe to be bullied? Because I can relate to that very well. And I'm choked at home, and then when I go to school, I have a bully who chokes me.
Yeah.
How does that keep me safe?
Because let's say safe. Let's change the word. Keeps you what you're familiar with.
Oh, wow. So that's
It keeps you close to home.
interesting, even if it's hell.
Well, hold on. Now let's look at the brain. Now the consciousness, it makes no sense logically, right? But to the brain, I call it the intelligent idiot. It captures the world. This is my world. This is how we do it. We see them fight, we get abused, and we think this is normal world. So we're going to take our normal world where we go, and it's going to keep you in alignment with what you deemingly childhood imprinted to be normal. And like somebody said, I come from a dysfunctional family. I said, well, I hate to tell you this. It functioned perfectly well. Look at your relationships. You just left those to find this one was the same.
Right.
It functions, but it's not so beneficial. But it keeps you familiar with your life, your childhood, and your experiences. Unless there's one variable that could really change the whole story. And that is if you unconsciously shift how you perceive it and internalize it and represent it. Now, again, like you have siblings, don't you? Yeah. We got boys, girls, what you got?
Older sister, younger sister.
So 3 girls, right? Now, I venture to say but all 3 of you have pretty much the same parents, right?
Yeah, nearly. Yes.
Yeah. You all live in the same house.
Absolutely. Same parents, different experiences. Yeah.
I bet you most of them act differently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All of
And
them.
yet, then why do they act differently? They could have similar experiences. Now, here's a weird thing too. The oldest one will have a total different environment than the youngest one because
Yes.
the parents are practicing. They have a whole new world than the middle child. So
Mm-hmm.
they have different information than the others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one may be favored, one may not be so favored. Each of those create a whole different world inside, but yet they come from the same family. The woman said, I just don't understand. Why is my oldest child the big trouble child? I said, well, you have to understand. She said this, why do they have big trouble child? They have the same mom, the same dad, the same home. I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, they have different inputs. I said, when you were when you was raising her early days, how was life? She said, well, at one point, husband and I going for a divorce, a lot of fighting. I said, how old was your daughter? She's about 7 years old. So here it is, 7-year-old witnesses and experiences what? Turmoil and conflict,
Mm-hmm.
fighting. This
Yeah.
becomes how the world is supposed to be. And guess what? The child is still repeating that same cycle.
Wow. And it's how it impacted her, how she captured that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. It's what she focused. You got twins.
Mm-hmm.
They're at the same moment, the same experience, but it goes in two different ways.
Mm-hmm.
One may be focused on the facial expression, and one may be focused on the pretty flowers. Same
Right.
experience, differently internalized.
Yes. And so how does our character, or not our character, our like who we are, like our gifting or who we are, how does that change? Because for someone who is called like sensitive, like you're so sensitive, you're too
Yeah,
sensitive.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so, and then one sibling is not as sensitive. So does that also impact, or
Well,
is the
there could be very different variables that each child would have
Mhm.
experienced. Like say, for example, a little boy is born and he has an older sister. Older sister hates him. Even while he's a baby, she'd put pillows over his face and hold it against him. He would pick on him, pinch him. He began super sensitive to sensations and feelings because this becomes a very loud scream.
That is very, so you're saying that a lot of the sensitive people today could have had experiences.
Yeah, yeah, and so Mama says, "I don't know what's wrong with Johnny. He's so different than the others. He's so scared and so fearful. He has weird behaviors." Right? So same family, same everything. So Johnny's mom says Johnny can work with me. So I'm working with Johnny, and Johnny had an experience that wasn't so good. No one else knows it, but he and I.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to Walmart and he goes to the bathroom, and some man follows him into the bathroom. All of a sudden, Johnny's world has been educated with something he shouldn't have been educated with.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it created behaviors that didn't make sense to mom. And again, you, the sister, the brother, the mom and dad, what's wrong with you? They
Mm-hmm.
don't know. But see, they don't know what it is that is going on behind the eyes.
Right. So your perspective, you wouldn't say like it's you were born into this world sensitive with these, sensitive gifts. You wouldn't come from that perspective.
I think it's developed. I mean, granted, there are like say for example, a child born and they're sick and they go through a lot of physical stuff. They could go two ways: be super strong, nothing bothers me, or super sensitive, everything bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
just depends. It depends on what you focus on, the child focus on at the time that they experience. Now, the bizarre thing is, like, I work with a lot of people with chemical sensitivities or 5G sensitivities. Everyone that I ever worked with, because 5G sensitivities, chemical sensitivities means something's out there to get me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, something's out. You can't see it, but they can smell it, sense it, and know it. Well, we go back and we talk about their childhood, and it's always the case. They grew up in an emotionally toxic environment. I mean, they can feel the anger, hear the anger floating around in the air.
Mm-hmm.
The woman who's so hypersensitive can't go anywhere, do anything. And, she's telling her story, and her story says, well, I had a normal life, except daddy was institutionalized and said he was crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she, mom lets him, mom, he's in the house and, she can feel the intensity. Don't be talking about that. The intensity. Mom was one of those super organized women controlling the whole situation. And she could see that and she can feel it in the air. And she's very loving towards her dad, and he also kind of feels like mom's a little hard on him, right? So, and then she's not sensitive until her husband has a heart attack. All of a sudden, all the things she learned growing up, she becomes hypersensitive, making up movies in her head that he's going to die, something bad's going to happen. And then she becomes super sensitive to everything in the world because the fear is boiling up from her emotional trainings growing up. So it shapeshifts. It shapeshifts from this to that to this to that.
Right. So it's not even about like the chemtrails or the 5G towers, and it's the stories we made up about it, but those are the metaphoric expressions if we're sensitive to those things.
Right, right. I mean, I'm granted there are some things that are real, but some things don't bother other people. Same
Right.
room, environment, because of their practiced focus.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And if the world's not safe and those chemtrails are not safe, then you're going to have stories around it.
And you feed it, you imagine it, you create
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
you manifest it. Like the lady, she's super sensitive to chemicals, chemical sensitivity. And so she's coming to the hotel. There's a seminar. And of course, she calls, because chemical sensitivities are really driven by fear, want to protect themselves. They call the hotel. Do you use soaps? Do you use this? Do you not use that? And all that stuff. Says, no, it's a scent-free hotel. So she goes in to book her, to pay for a room and go to her room. All of a sudden, she starts having a chemical reaction. She says, I smell it. There's got to be a scented candle somewhere. I smell strawberries. And she started having a reaction. And the woman pulls out real strawberries. But her imagination took off.
Mm-hmm.
So again, these are chemical sensitivities. These are recycled experiences. So
Yes.
it's like I was in Australia the first time, and of course this woman says, "Does this work on allergies?" I said, "I don't know. Let's give it a try." I know, but I say that just in case, right? Because if you say yes, then they don't want it to work. So I say, no, I don't know. So they come up. And I say, what kind of allergies is it? She said, peanuts. And I said one sentence. She started having a reaction to peanuts. I said, I'm sorry, you just ate a peanut. No peanuts involved.
Yeah.
Guess what happened? She started having a reaction to a word, a few
Wow.
words.
Right.
So that tells us what? The brain is the manifestor and producer.
Mm-hmm.
So we cleaned it up. And here's a bizarre thing. As we clean it up, the allergic reaction was a metaphoric expression. And this is what started coming out of her mouth because I can't guess this stuff. She goes, I said, have you, we're working on this. I said, what does it remind you? This reminds me of my aunt, my mean aunt who was in a wheelchair. And she was hitting me she was hitting me with something, and I could smell the peanuts on her breath.
Wow. That's the link.
Lincoln. And then later on, she says, oh, yeah, she's trying to hit me with a rolling pin. And guess what it looks
Oh.
like at the end of the rolling pin? The peanut. So she created an emotional reaction to peanuts by an emotional experience.
Wow. So if you're ready to go deep into your own patterns, book a one-on-one session with Robert. You will uncover the metaphors that are shaping your body, your behaviors, your life, the issues you're experiencing, and start creating breakthroughs this year, right now. Don't wait. You can really learn to shift your whole world. So go ahead and check out the show notes. The link will be in the show notes below.
Yep.
Wow.
I worked a lot of big stuff, big stuff. And of course, some of this stuff you can't make up. You cannot make it up at all. It's like when I do sessions, it's almost like I'm going on an adventure and we never know where we're going to go, but their mind has all the answers.
That's what your tap alongs are like. It's like we're on this ride, and Robert's going to find the link, and everybody watch out. Here we go.
Yeah, so those of you who may not know, I do every Tuesday, midday, and it's 6 o'clock, Oklahoma time, and people just sign up, and I mean, and then I help change. They volunteer. They give me a problem. What kind of memory? What kind of issue? And you don't know where we're going to go, but you'll see changes right now happen in front of you.
Mhm.
Uh, and I'm really good at what I do. I'm probably the one of the best. Be able to change big memories, big problems in a short period of time.
Mhm.
I'm a trauma expert. Traumas are just educational experiences, and your brain captured it, internalized it, and use it on you to keep you safe, but also makes you crazy, crazy sweats, panic attacks, etc. And so, if you know how to change memories, you can change your life. Update the memories. Of course, I talk about Gabor Mate. I've watched his videos. He's saying the same things I say. How could he? He's got to be watching my videos. But the difference between Gabor Mate and me is I know how to change memories, and they use microdosing, they
Yeah.
use talk therapy, and they use antidepressants. Your problems is not because you have a deficiency in Prozac.
No. In fact,
It's
your
memories.
your brain can manufacture whatever it is you need.
Yeah. So again, if you go to a system, guys, and I hear this all the time. I've already dealt with that. I said, okay, let's just check it. No, I hired an employee just this week actually, and he said he knows my work, and he says, oh yeah, I know EFT, and I went to a therapist and helped me get rid of this one memory when I was a kid. And I said, okay. And as he's talking about it, I can see it's still there. I can see him. He's being very sensitive. I said, you can still feel it. And, we're talking about many years ago as a kid. I said, and I used my system and maybe 2 rounds around. I said, go back and bring it back, make it come back. He says, I can't. I'm not there anymore. Before he's telling the story, he feels better. And that's what therapies do. You can feel better, but
Yeah.
it's never resolved.
Yep.
When I work with people, I say, go back and bring it back. I try to help them give it back.
Yes. Yeah. You
All right.
brought them. Come
You
on. Come
know,
on. See, try to feel bad.
No, people. I did sessions with Crystal.
Yeah.
We did some big stuff. Yeah.
Yes, we did. Yes. And the grief and loss, like that one, I know we've had actually a lot of the sessions we've done are really big stuff. But even the grief and loss, those experiences, because I could cry at the drop of a hat if you would say,
Oh,
Robert,
that's right.
Robert dropped down and he's dead. He's like just immediate tears. Like I can't handle death. So, so yeah, I'm just thinking back to that session.
Yeah, we went and changed some really big experiences that were still driving you that create this big fear.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
now it seems to be different.
it is. And it's getting better and better. I still know I have lots of stuff in there, but it's getting
Yeah.
better. And the way you've built eutaptics and faster EFT, you've built it in a way that people will understand how their mind works. So how does
Mhm.
your system actually help people change the inner representations?
Well, I think it's very simple. If you know how it works and you explain how it works, it makes sense. I mean, it's that simple. But if you don't know how it works, you're going to be chasing energy, bunnies, and fairies, and imps and demons trying to solve your problem. Your problem is not because of how you were born. It's not because you're male or female. It's not because of your Irish or Italian or Ukrainian. It's because of how you internalize the world. It's not your ancestors, it's your emotional conditionings. And it's how you internalize things. You can create a problem by watching Indiana Jones as he was dropped down in the Temple of Doom, and the spiders are snakes, and all of a sudden you got a fear of spiders and snakes because you internalized, you created, and you gave meanings and feelings to it.
Hmm.
So yeah, so this is how the brain. So if you know how it works, it works. If you don't know how it works, you'll be chasing. You'll be. I mean, how many times I hear this all the time? I tried every therapy on the planet. You name it, I've tried it. I mean, you tried a lot of them too.
Well, yeah.
But if they're not doing one thing, and that is updating memories, you'll still be chasing rainbows and rabbits and catch
Yeah.
nothing.
And I think right there, that's a signal for anyone listening. That's like, it's a sign if you're still chasing another modality, like that's
Hmm.
like, number one, it could be a coping strategy for you. That way you're not really dealing with your stuff because
Right,
it's so
right.
easy to run away. But if you keep chasing,
Hmm.
that's a signal. Okay, something like
Hmm.
stop running away and deal with your stuff, and it's something's not working. If you have to go from one modality to another, something's not working.
Right. Well, let me just say this too. I mean, a lot of people, you can find feel goods with a therapy that doesn't work. There's the community, there's the kumbaya, there's the I'm so glad I'm not puking and shitting on myself. I feel spiritual. It's going through ayahuasca 12 times, I said, or even walking across coal with Anthony Robbins 15 times. You'll be a great guest at a barbecue, but you still got your stuff.
Right. Yes, you have good stories.
Yeah, like the lady, I talk about her too because it's so really interesting. She's been in Tibetan temples and for years, months on end being quiet, silence in her mind, but doing a session on her, all that stuff coming out of her was buckets of it, loud stuff. Because again, the number one coping mechanism we all use as a survival system, I feel bad, therefore I'm going to go over here. I
Hmm.
feel bad. I'm going to go over here. But when you go over there, you're trying to escape what's inside you. And you
Right.
can't run from you. You take it all with you. And you could tuck it behind the wall and paint a pretty picture, but it's still behind the wall.
Hmm.
So, but if you go there, and this is what I do with my clients, if you go there and you change what's there to where it's not there, there's nothing to run from, nothing to hide from. You don't need heroin. You don't need cocaine. You don't need alcohol. You don't need to shop. You don't need to be cleaning all the time to avoid something because there's nothing to avoid.
Hmm.
Your
Right.
relationships will get better because the relationship within you changes.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So people online are asking some questions regarding the past. Why does the past keep showing up even when I think I've moved on?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a very normal program. So we think out of sight, out of mind. Well, it doesn't work that way. I
Mhm.
mean, like right now, you're listening to me, you're hearing my words, you see my purple shirt, you're noticing my black jacket, and you hear the tone of my voice. You're focusing on that because that's where your focus is. But you're not thinking about your feet or your shoes or your socks until now because it's out of focus until I bring it to a focus. But that's also what we do. And this is what we call workaholism or avoidaholic. I don't want to go there. I don't want to look at it. I want to stay busy. Well, the sad thing is, the older you get, the less busy you can be because you're getting older and slower. Then what you've been running from starts to work its way out through your body in pain, or you start having weird thoughts and ideas, traumas, fears, and worries. So there's only one way, guys, and that is making peace, clean up the memories within yourself.
Mhm.
That's the only one way.
Hmm. Another question. Do we ever truly leave the past or do we just reshape it?
Well, let's be honest with you. I mean, people say, why would I even go visit the past? What happened? I never think about it. I say, well, it's probably okay. But here's the deal. You can write a check and you can walk across the floor because of memory. Without remembering, sitting in kindergarten, writing the letters of the alphabet on the chalkboard on a piece of paper, it still drives you. So what I do is we go to the memories that you didn't want happen, you wish never happened, and we update the memories to where it's pleasant and positive. When you do that, your brain's going to use it on you. Basically, everything we do today is a recycled memory, even if you never remember it, even if you never recall it. Our brain just does it without conscious thinking. And that's the nice thing about it. It's the nice thing about it.
Okay, yes, it is a nice thing because it makes it effortless.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, the smartest part about us is not consciousness. It's the unconsciousness. It's the one that puts things together and create things. It's a great manifester.
Hmm.
It's like the guy, I don't know how he found me. He called me up and he says, "Hey, I've got a golf tournament. Will you help me with my golf game?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So he comes in, and so I says, "Well, tell me about your golf game." He says, "Usually, no matter the golf game, it always starts good. About midway through, it starts going bad." I said, Have you ever done any other sports other than this?" So, "Oh yeah, I used to be a sharpshooter. Same thing. I do really good. Half of it, I go bad." I said, "Anything else?" He says, "Bowling too. Same thing. At the first part of it, I did great, and then it goes bad." "Anything else?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "When I was a kid, I played baseball. I was in the kitchen and I was telling Dad how great I was. And he fat me. He said, 'Boy, you're getting too big for your britches.'" So what did that mean? At that point, he didn't want to be too big for his britches. At that point, every sport, when he does well, really well, it's not safe to do great. So in my office, we're working on this golf and I'm looking for the parts that's bad and I clean it up. So inside of his head, he won the game, the competition. He's at a tournament and, I said, "Well, let me know how it goes." So here it is. Cause when I work with sports people are really easy to make changes because sport is a big hypnotic trance. It's once you get the physical down, it's all mental.
Mhm.
And so he writes me, he goes, "I'm at the 17th hole. I'm 4 behind, but I don't know how that ball knew how to go where it went. And I won the tournament." The ball knew where to go. It wasn't the ball. It was his unconscious. I got chills going through me as I talk about it.
That's amazing. But it is the
That's true.
unconscious and it makes it effortless. The
Oh
body
yeah.
follows the mind.
Oh yeah. I mean, you look at Tiger Woods, for example. Here it is. He's top of the game. He's number one. And of course, he put the ball in the wrong hole, and his wife gave him a golf club across his head because of what he did. All of a sudden, his golf game went to hell. And it's not because the golf club knocked his golfing scores down. It's his emotional system.
Right.
And now he's back at top again because that emotional turmoil went away.
Hmm.
Golf and sports is basically more mental than it is physical. Once you get the skill down, and it's
Hmm.
all unconscious too.
Hmm. Okay,
So,
here's one last question from people online. What does it actually mean to heal the past?
okay, that's a good question. First of all, your past isn't sick. It's not needs to be healed. None whatsoever. Your
Mhm.
past is a program learned to keep you in alignment with where you came from, whether it's a trauma or bad stuff. So you don't need to heal your past. You need to adjust your past. Whatever you adjust it to, your brain will recycle it. So now again, a lot of people say, it needs to be healed. It's not sick. Again, see, this is where a lot of people get this whole thing wrong. There's a dark mark on your soul. You got a blockage. You got a defect. You got a disorder. And to everyone who says that are ignorant on how the brain works. Your brain is a successful machine. It will produce based on what you're exposed to. Now, if you've got some crazy behaviors, you've got some panic attacks, you've got some anxieties, you keep picking the wrong one that's so familiar in your past. These are successes. If you don't like it, it's easy to change it. You go to those memories, you go to those references, and you update them and change them, whatever you change them to. Your brain will start attracting what you change it to. You're not broken. There's no healing need to occur, but there need to be an education. You need to update the references in your mind, and what you update it to, you get. It's that simple. When somebody comes and they tell me, there's a lot of people people like Paul, for example, he comes in my office. I talk about I talk about the pivotal moments of learning that I get. Paul, he's an older guy, probably in his 80s, and 70s, 80s, and he has this nerve damage in his growing. And of course, the doctor says you got nerve damage. You'll have nerve damage the rest of your life. Well, I know scientifically it's been proven that a sugar pill, if you take a sugar pill, some people take a sugar pill, get a fake operation, and the brain, and then the problem disappears. Is it the sugar pill? Is it the fake operation? The answer is no. It's the brain shifting and creating and manifesting changes. We call it healing. And so when I work with Paul, he's people give me disorders and all that stuff. I don't believe in those. I think everything is success, and I dismantle how you successfully created it, and I update it to where you create something the opposite of it. So when I got done with Paul, he walked out without any pain. Weeks later, months later, he came back. We go stack of papers. I'm supposed to have pain. He has no pain because the brain can change it by changing its resources. So if you're tired of a miserable relationship, you're tired of being helpless and hopeless and having no control in your life, if you notice, this is not your first rodeo. You can backtrack it. You've been repeating an emotional cycle, you know? And of course, here lately I've been doing a lot of biblical studies. Now, my system is not Christian. It's not anti-Christian either, but I like good concepts,
Truth.
And Jesus said this, let the dead bury their dead because they don't know what they do. Now, what does that mean? Dead bury their dead? What he's saying is that let those who are ignorant, they keep doing the same thing over and over again. They don't know what they're doing. They're repeating a pattern that keeps them in a place of misery. That's all it is. So let the dead, like I said, let the dead bury the dead. They don't know what they do. And he's really talking about what you do. Guys, I will assure you, if you get a piece of paper out and you write your problems a day and ask yourself, have I ever experienced this before? You're going to start seeing anything before that. You're going to see it's just a recycled experiences.
That's a great question. Great question. Have I experienced this before?
Yeah, just take your pen and paper out. And if you have a problem, write it down and ask yourself, has it ever happened before? Write down what it was. You can also see that in your relationships. You look at your relationships, how I feel with this current person. Have I ever experienced this with another person? You're still repeating that.
So if you're ready for personalized guidance on shifting your patterns and creating real change, check out the show notes for the link for a free strategy call. Let's look at what's really showing up in your life and how to start transforming it.
And I'll tell you another thing, guys. I know that if you have a lifetime of experiences and you never really changed anything, never really cleaned up some of these things, I know it seems a bit daunting at first and it seems to be overwhelming, but to be honest with you, it's not that bad, really. I mean, you can change a lot of stuff. I can help you change a lot of stuff in a short period of time. Some really big stuff. And it's measurable. You can go back and check and see if it's really gone or updated,
Yeah, you will definitely have eye-opening experiences when working with Robert. You'll wake up to who you are and the life that you've been needlessly suffering in too. Any closing words for our faithful listeners?
Well, I think one of the most important thing you could ever do is invest in yourself, And, I know sometimes it seems daunting to be able or be willing to just step into the arena to change some stuff, I remember this guy, he booked a session with me and he read, I want him to do a little homework and write down some of the things that unpleasant in his life. And he said, oh, I can't do this. I called and said, listen, it's not a big deal. It's going to be really easy for you. Just write it down. And by the time you're done, after the end of the day, you're into the session, you're going to feel really good. And that's exactly what it was. He said, I can't believe I made a big deal out of it. But the deal is, those memories seem really big. They really do. But in reality, it's not really that big. It's just a physical reaction to an internal creation. And they can change. They can change really fast. We're not talking about talk therapy. We talk about rehearsal therapy. Mm-hmm. Understanding your problem doesn't change the problem. Updating the memories sets you free. And that's what I do.
Yes, that's Yes. Yeah. So if this conversation with Robert opens something up for you, take the next step. Check out the show notes for all the links, his free course, one-on-one sessions, and book a strategy call with me to explore enrolling into You Can Change Yourself Master Training. And if this episode spoke to you, make sure to subscribe because each week we explore how your mind works. Robert teaches about how the unconscious patterns work, helping you create real lasting change in your life.
Yeah. Learn to love yourself, learn to like yourself from within yourself, because what you have up here, what you do up here, you'll do to other people. Start with you and make a difference in your world. Peace.
Peace.